everybody. Today I want to talk to you about what we do when your child complains to you about your other parent treating them unfairly. So this is an interesting concept because if we think about most of the parenting advice from experts, as well as most of the conversation in Facebook groups about parenting, is that when your child complains about something that the other parent has done, that it's your job to decide what was appropriate to be done in that situation, and then to find a way to make that happen. So either you will convince your partner or ex to change the way they're behaving, or you will sympathise with the child for having been treated unfairly. You will also see another school of thought, which is that we always back the other parent because the kids need to see a unified front. And I think both of those are not going to be healthy. The reason I say this is that I think there's something to be said here for there's so much juice in learning how to communicate effectively with a person who loves you dearly, who may or may not be completely healthy in how they handle emotions and communication. Because, quite frankly, the vast majority of us are not there yet in terms of treating our own emotions healthily, in terms of treating other people's emotions healthily, and in terms of communicating really kindly and clearly. The vast majority of us some of us have actual wounds from our own childhood or other adult experiences where those are impacting how we handle our feelings or how we approach other people. And the vast majority of us also have some form of cultural conditioning from society, which is just not healthy or helpful. And so if we think about that, the times when our child is complaining about their other parent is such a great learning opportunity because it gives us a chance to help our child talk to somebody who they can trust, 100% loves them. It's just that the way they're communicating isn't working for you right now. And so this is a chance where our job is not to be a person who fixes the problem. Our job is to help our child, first and foremost, learn how to express themselves, learn what's important to them, learn what to do when somebody else is treating you in a way that you don't appreciate. Like, how do you handle that in a way that is honouring your own needs and your own self, but is also respectful of the other person? There's so much juice in this. So the very first thing that I would say when your child comes to you with a complaint about their other parent, the very first thing I do is help them get clear on what is the problem for them. So your perception of what has happened is, it's not quite irrelevant. We're going to use it a little bit later in the conversation, but at this particular point in the conversation, your perception is not required. All you want to do is get clear with your child, what is it that they are upset about and why. So if your child comes and says, "Daddy turned the TV off," and they might be wailing or they might be complaining, who knows, but "Daddy turned the TV off," your first question is not something like, "Well, did he give you a warning?" or "Had you had too much TV for the day?" or anything that's like sensible, rational, that would explain it away. The first question is, "Oh, right. And what happened? How was that for you?" Right? You could even just go, "Oh, he turned the TV off." Right? You're just reflecting back and seeing if they have more to say about that. What we want to look for is sometimes the problem is that they wanted to keep watching the TV. Sometimes the problem is that the way Daddy came in and told them, "I'm very cranky about, I'm cranky and I'm turning the TV off." Sometimes it's that the TV was too loud. Like, there's lots of different things that could have been happening. And so our first port of call is, what is it that is the problem and why is it important to you? When we get underneath that and we can understand, is it that they wanted to know that they matter? Is it that they wanted to be able to choose what they do? Is it that they don't actually have another way to occupy themselves, right? We want to dig in and look for what is the issue for them. And when you get to the core of the issue, you'll see two things happen. One is that your child will feel heard. So they may say something like, yes, that's exactly it, or that's me, that's what's happening. You know, they might say something, but you also might just see that their body language relaxes. You might just see them kind of relax into, yes, I feel like I'm being heard. The second thing you know that gives you a sign that you've gotten to the core of it is that it's something that you can validate. So if you were to see their position as it's not fair for him to turn the TV off, it's not kind of something that you can validate, because there's lots of circumstances in which you would need to turn the TV off, and it may or may not be fair, but it's necessary, right? So we want to go deeper until we get to a place where it's like, yes, that seems like something that's really valid, that's a really important perspective, and they feel heard. Once you've gotten to that place, you want to be able to express that in words that are respectful. So it might be you wanted to wait until the end of the show so that you could turn the TV off then. Or you're worried that the rest of the day is going to be boring because you really wanted to watch the TV the whole day, right? So, and you can see how the part that you can validate there is not that you wanted to watch the TV all day, because that's not necessarily, even though I'm not saying that won't happen sometimes, especially in the pandemic, but more to the point, it's not necessary for them to watch the TV all day, but they're worried that the rest of the day is going to be boring. That's the part where that's genuinely what they think, right? So we want to be looking for that key, and you're looking for a respectful way to express it. So if that's something that you struggle with, pop a comment in the comments box with what the situation is, and let me know the closest you can get to a way to describe it in a respectful way, and I can totally workshop that with you in the comments. So once we've gotten to that place, the more you reinforce with your child a respectful way to express something, the more likely they're able to do that the next time. So this is one of the benefits of taking this approach, is that you're actually wanting to get to a place where the next time this similar incident happens, your child is able to process it themselves, and they're able to actually articulate to their parent in the moment, this is what I'm feeling, right? And so for those of us, the parents on the side of let's help them with their emotions and communication style, and it's not always just one parent, but often. And the reason I say that is because it's a spectrum, right? And so, it's very rare that we're both going to be at the same point along the spectrum, right? So the parent who's further along in terms of let's focus on emotional awareness and communication, we tend, in our relationship with the kids, we tend to do a lot of the heavy lifting of helping them process what's going on. So the more we can help them process what's going on with other people, the more we get a chance to help them learn to practice that themselves, if that makes sense. Because this is something, we don't want to completely own their process of unpacking. We want them to build the skill set over time of being able to go, okay, I feel bad. This is why I feel bad. This is how I'd like to express that. So once you've gotten to that part, and you say, so would you like to tell Daddy? Would you like to tell Mummy that that's how you feel about it? Or why don't we go and tell Mama now? Right? We're going actually to suggest that they go and say their piece, right? And we want to say it from a respectful place. It's like, I don't like it when you refuse to make a second set of toast because I asked for triangles and you gave me triangles, but I wanted squares. I would like you to make it for me again, right? That does not mean that the other parent has to do what the child has asked. What's important here is that a problem happens and your child knows how to process what they want and respectfully express themselves. And then that gives a chance for the other parent to actually say, well, I'm not going to make another set of toast because I don't want to waste the food. Now, that would be great. Sometimes a parent who is less interested in the emotional processing and communication skills might not be interested in having that level of detail of conversation, right? Also, even if you have a parent who is interested in that, they're not always going to be, well rested and in a good mood. There are days where we just don't express ourselves well, no matter who we are, right? So if they come back with something like, well, I'm not doing that, you ask for triangles, then again, this is the part where most people would say, tell your partner that that's not okay, that they need to speak respectfully, they need to explain themselves, give a good reason, right? That's all. It's helpful if your partner wants you to remind them in that way. Most people don't. Whether they do or don't want you to remind them, it's also really healthy for your child who might be like, he's not making the toast. Then your response, rather than focus on your partner, if you focus on your child to help them process the feeling, and then the question is, do you understand why they don't want to make the toast? Because most of the time, if they say something like, no, I'm not making it again, you ask for triangles. There's no reason in there, right? Now, in our culture, what we expect everybody to do is figure out what, of course, I would mean that I don't want to waste the food. That's how we expect everybody to work. It's actually a recipe for communication, like complete misses in communication, right? So what we want to do is get our children in the habit of saying, Daddy, I don't understand why you won't make the toast again. Can you please explain to me why? Right? Now, of course, those words might be a little bit old for your child, especially if they're really young, but we want to look for what is there. It's like, why won't you make the toast? I really want it, right? And we want them to be going back in to basically say, I want to understand what is going on your side of the fence. That's where we want to help them to process, right? So you can notice in all of this, I'm not in any way saying it's not okay for Daddy to do this. I'm not in any way saying it's not, Mummy should have told you the reason for why she won't do the toast, right? I'm not giving any judgments at all. I'm not taking sides at all. I'm literally being a skill facilitator. I am helping them process their feelings, and I am helping them articulate their perspective. I am helping them respectfully inquire as to the other person's perspective. Right? And then when we finally get to the place where the two positions are on the table, so let's go with the toast example, right? Child wants another set of toast because they wanted squares. Adult says, I don't want to make you squares, you asked for triangles, I gave you triangles, and let's go to the real reason. Real reason is, I don't want to waste the bread. Child, when we say I wanted squares, we haven't gotten to the real reason. So what's the real reason? I feel like you do everything for the baby when she needs it, and when I need something, you say no. Right? So then we have this communication that's on the table. And in a lot of circumstances, a parent who is not on their feeling their best selves on that day, or even a parent who is not as interested in emotional skills and communication skills, it is easier for them to be able to respond respectfully when the truth on both sides is on the table. Doesn't always happen, but we're making it easier. And your child has gotten valuable practice in this. So when we get there, still sometimes the problem doesn't get solved. So still sometimes the other parent will stick to their guns, and still sometimes the child will be unwilling to compromise as well. What we want to do there is look for not a compromise, but a solution. So if we can think about the bread, right, the toast, right? If the say that parent sees the perspective of the child as like, I get that you think the baby is more important, but I'm not willing to waste the toast. I'm not willing to put it in the bin. I need you to eat the toast that you made. Then the options we have, there are so many other ways for your child to feel important to their parent. So many ways. The toast is not the only way, right? So then we go to, you can either say to your child, do you have any other ideas about how mama can show how important you are to her? And then it's not just all about the baby, right? You could also say, can you ask mama if she has any other ways that she could make you feel important, that you understand where she's coming from in the toast and you'd like her to make a different decision, but what else could we do? Okay? There are so many options available to them. And so you can see in all of these steps, we're looking at emotional awareness, we're looking at how we express ourselves, we're looking at how we inquire and make it safe for other people to express themselves with us. We're looking at the skills to get to the root cause of the problem, and we're looking at the skills to come up with solutions that work for everybody involved instead of whose way is better. Right? That's the way our culture thinks, is whose way is better, and then the other person is meant to acquiesce. And instead, we can look for real solutions. So this is kind of like a snapshot of all the things we want for our kids that they can use for themselves, they can use with their friends, their future intimate relationships. This is like a little snapshot, and you can see how day to day, we've got all these examples, like so much practice, where they have with somebody that they can trust, adores them. And that is just such a beautiful training ground for them to really practice their skill set. And especially for things where if we particularly really focused on being responsive, this is a great training ground for somebody who's not focused as much on being responsive. And again, I say that as a spectrum. It's not like neither of you are responsive, but usually there's one person that is further along. It's rare that the two of us are exactly on this. And as particularly we might be the same level of responsive on certain issues than on others. So ultimately, this is a beautiful place to practice those skills. Now, everything I've said there, like each one of those things is a skill set in and of itself. Our baggage can come up when we are trying to support our children with this. Particularly with these ones, we can often have our baggage come up of things about, say for example, it's the same gender parent that we had of our partner, if that makes sense. So if your partner is a man and you had some issues with your father, then you might have the same issues coming up because you're seeing your partner, even if whether they are or they aren't, we often will see our partner treating our children the way we didn't like to be treated ourselves, and vice versa. So if you've got the same gender partner, often it can bring up some issues. It can also bring up generic personal issues like wounds from our childhoods, and it can also bring up some of the frustrations that we have in our relationships. So this is kind of a tricky space, and so if you'd like my help to work through this process, partly to reduce the tension in the home, but also this is a great place for your child to practice their emotional awareness and communication skills. So if you'd like my help to do that, you can book in a free session at jodithornton.com/15, and you can just give me a rundown of where are you up to, what's hard, what have you tried, what is working, and then I can give you a recommendation on what I would suggest from here. So thank you so much for watching, and as I said, if you've got some, particularly those times of how do you express the issue respectfully, if you've got some examples of that where you'd like my help, please pop them in the comments box and I'll help you workshop them.